through the different hive designs, and I'll tell you the strong points, the weak points, what not to use, the hive I like. There is a hive called the oath hive, O-A-T-H. Original Australian trigona hive. The Australian trigona is a little black bee that makes its brood, I believe it makes its brood as discs. But the honey is tiny little ball bearings that is a mess like a bunch of grapes. The oath hive is basically, right, okay. So the brood is down here, and then up here at the base you have two pieces of lat coming across to support the honey cells in the top, so the honey cells don't collapse and fall inside. So it's just two strips of wood coming across. And how that is harvested is just they dig it all out, they smush it up, and they put it on a piece of mosquito netting, and the honey drains through. Right? You can't use that for our bees here, even for our Physiomalletta. Right? But that's very popular in a lot of countries. It doesn't work down here. Now, then there is the UTOB hive, which was developed for Tobago, UTOB, University of Utrecht, Tobago. Right? This. Okay? So this is where the brood, this was developed in Tobago for the Melapona favosa, Eric or Moko chiquit. The brood is in here, and this is the honey super. Now, if you notice, right, everything fits into this tray. Right? So when you're ready to harvest your honey, you pop out this and you put in a fresh one, and you scrape out all the honey and process it, wash it, and put it to dry, and next year you'll switch it again. But the problem with this hive is underneath here is fine ants who will make a nest underneath it. And that is our problem. That is a problem. The other problem is, go back to the oath hive. The boxes one after the other. Right. Okay. When now this is a design, I kind of use a adapted design on this. This, you have to have your hives made by a joiner, not a cutlass carpenter, a joiner, someone who can do very neat carpentry cabinet work, because all your joints have to be very well done and sealed so that flies can't get in. Because there is a pest, a very small fly that gets in if there is a crack, and it will mash up your hive, lay eggs all over the brood and everything, and mash up your hive. So it has to fit perfectly. Okay, now let us handle the bees that make a vertical brood first. So that is the Moko grande, the Moko chiquit, that's two melaponas, the pagon, right, those three bees. The hive, you want two kinds of hives if you're keeping those bees. You want honey producing hives, and then you want hives to make hives. So you have a hive box like this, okay, for splitting hives to make daughter hives. And how it works is this. You have your brood here, and the brood is here. Let us say it is the Melapona trinitatis, Moko grande, walnut. 12, you take a 1 by 12 pine board for the base and for the top, right? And you put 6-inch board walls around the side. Inner dimension would be 1-inch thick wall, so that is a 10-inch dimension on the inside, because it's a 12-inch board, right? So it's a 10-inch dimension, 10 by 10 on the inside. Okay. So the top of the bottom box is open like this. The bottom of the top box, now this top lid can come off. This can come off, right? But it has to be well fitting, so that when it goes down, it's sealed properly. the bottom of the top box has a piece of hardboard floor. And the hardboard floor is like that. It has 4 holes in the corners, right? Now, hold on. That would be the third box to go on top. If you want to use this design to harvest honey. So as the let us look at that design and imagine it has 3 compartments, right? The 2 bottom ones and the top one would the floor would be this. So as the bees go up with their brood cells, the tower of brood cells in the center, it would come up, and when it hits here, they would not extend it into the top box. So the top box would be the honey super. The worker bees would go around and only fill the very top with honey. The second box would have brood in it. So what you can do is you take off the top box and you put it on an empty bottom box. And you put an empty top box on your full bottom box. So what you're doing is you're splitting your column of brood in half. Everybody understand what I'm saying?
Just repeat that.
The bees will stack their brood cells like a tower of pancakes.
Right.
Come up in the center, and they will have honey pots and nectar pots around them. Seeing that your inner dimension is 10 by 10, it will be big enough for the brood cells, the pancakes of brood, with honey, so they will have food stores around. They will extend from the bottom box into the top box. Right? You split the 2 boxes and you put the top box that is full of brood on an empty bottom box, and you put an empty top box on the bottom box that is full of brood. So now your 1 colony has become 2. You understand?
But could you just take off the top 2 and just...
No, if you want, this is the design that is used in Brazil.
Right.
That in areas, in very dry areas like the Pantanal and stuff that have very dry seasons, they will have the 2 bottom that has brood in it, and then they will have 2 on top of that again, with these excluder, with these corner holes, so that you have 2 honey supers on top. So every year you can split, right? And the right. That is the hole that you will cut in the bottom of this box. A big diamond hole. So that they will extend their brood from the bottom box up through the central hole into the base of the top box. But the corners here, this is solid. All this is solid. Solid hardboard. Right? All this is solid. This will give support to the brood mass. So it won't collapse on itself when you move it across to an empty box. You understand? So you have it. Using this design, you don't have to be digging up in your brood cells and taking out the brood cells in your hand and damaging them. You just slide a knife through and separate the 2 boxes, and you just move and you make 1 hive into 2. Right? When you add the honey super step, you will know every time you have another layer, you have more chances for flies to get in along where it joins. So I would not advise using this design in Trinidad with the honey supers on top. This design is only 2 layers. Only 2 layers in Trinidad. And this design is used to split hives. This design is used to split hives. You have 1 hive, and this, you can split a colony in 2 with the least amount of touching of the brood, because handling the brood, you damage it, and it exposes the scent of pollen and stuff, and the forest flies want to come in. And so this, in Trinidad we have a lot of problem with forest flies. This is the best design for splitting brood. Good. Now, your entrance. You will see on all these foreign designs, it's just a hole going through the 1-inch board. That don't work in Trinidad. A lot of the time it doesn't work because we have bad forest flies there. The only thing that works for is the Petit Angel and the Cacapagon, because they're small and they handle the forest flies well. That does not work for the Melapona. So, what I have come up with is this. This is the front wall of your hand. You have another piece of 1-inch board like this, that you take a whole bit and you drill several holes. Go up. 4 holes is good, right? Take your wood rasp and you open it up and you stick in that onto your box, right? And then you take another piece this size and you drill an entrance hole here. So the bees are entering here through this 1-inch board into here, which has holes going up, and then they come in here and build their wax entrance tube, come right down to the bottom of the box, and they exit into the bottom of the box here. So now you have a tunnel the size of a bee going through a 1-inch board, comes into this 1-inch board that has the holes cut in it with the hole saw. So that now they have several chambers coming up here where the bees can accumulate in. Not just one bee thick, but several bees. That if the fly gets in here, there is more of a chance for them to control it before it gets into the hive. And then they come out the top and down. So it's making a larger entrance chamber, more volume on the inside for the bees to block out the flies. Because flies are a problem. Everybody understand that design?
No, sorry. The also
How do you exclude the holes?
No, you don't exclude flies. The bees have to do that. They have traps and things that you put inside that I spoke about, the vinegar traps and stuff.
Those in the second small piece of board, those holes are vertical?
No. I just did it like that. The hole saw is a drill bit with like a piece of pipe around it with saw teeth on it. So when you started drilling with the drill bit centers your hole, and then that eventually comes down and it cuts out a large hole like that. Now you get the different hole saws of different sizes. So you want a hole saw of about 1.5 inches. So when the bees come in the bottom hole on this outer one here, the exterior entrance, this is a piece of 1-inch board glued to this piece, which is glued to the box. Right? So the bees enter here at the bottom. Right? So they enter here. There is a second board with all the holes going up here that are connected to one another. So the bees can travel up here. And then they go through the hole in the box itself. So they enter at the bottom, they go up to the second piece, and then they enter the top. And then the bees on the inside of the box build a tube going right to the bottom.
David, can you sketch the second piece? Just do a...
Alright, the second piece, the inner piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that.
Alright.
You understand? Right? Okay? So the bee, you have another piece stuck onto the outside like this, with a hole here, so when he goes through here, he enters this. And they go up here, and then at the top here, there's the hole on the inner wall. Right? That he goes into the inner box, and they will build their tube coming down to the bottom.
So and just the entrance, the first hole is
At the bottom. Yeah.
Right, so they go up.
So when they enter in the box, on the inside of the box, you want them to enter the top here. So they make a long tube. Because the longer the passageway is to get into the hive, is the less smell from the interior of the hive that is going to get out. And not only that, it's the more of a chance the bees have to stop the flies on their way into the hive. Because no matter what you do, they're going to get it. The fly is going to get it. Right? And they have certain bees like the Melapona that do a really poor job of keeping the flies out. So you want as long a passageway as possible. That is the entrance that has to be used on the Melapona. Right? You don't need to use this on the Amalthea. The Amalthea take care of their business, and the Petit Angel take care of their business. The Petit Angel, you just borrow a whole 3 sides of the box here. And, right? Okay, so that double box, right? One on top of the other. One on top of the other is what you use to split hives. You have your colony, And when they fill, when you take off the top cover on the box head, top cover, when you take it off, you put a piece of transparent plastic that you use to cover school books. So when you take off your wooden cover, you can see into the hive. When the colony has filled the entire 2 boxes, then you take off the top box and you put it on an empty bottom box. You take an empty bottom box and you put it on the other side. So what you do is you know 1 hive was turned into 2 hives. Simple. No playing around with your hive, with your brood cells, with your honey pots. Simple. When it comes to harvesting honey,
David, one other comment, I guess, is it's only at a certain time of the year that you do this, right?
yes, dry season. That was covered in previous workshops. Don't open these boxes when there is rain. Rain brings forest flies. Forest flies is the death of stingless beehives. When you have your 1 hive, your initial hive in this style box that you're using to separate into new colonies, and you have a surplus of colonies now, you don't want to touch this style to take honey out. You're not harvesting honey from this. This is to produce colonies. When you've gotten to the stage now that you have 6, 8, 10, 12 colonies, and you want to start producing honey, you're going to take out the brood from 1/2 of this and put into a honey collecting hive. Now, the whole hoo-ha about how to split hives and it was done in another workshop, and how to get around the parasites and whatnot. Okay? So, you've learned how to do that. You're taking the brood cells out and you're putting it in a new design box. This is your honey collecting box for milkweed.
This one kind of thin. Let any of these out.
This is your honey collecting box. Alright. This is your top view. Top view. This is the built up pieces of wood for your entrance here. Your brood is in the center here. It will have honey pots all around it. This will have a large hole cut here. You could use a hole saw again. A hole saw for a drill. Right? You want it. If it's too small, the bees are going to block it up, and you want to maybe get the largest hole so that you could find and put maybe 3 or 4 of them in a diamond pattern. So it will allow for good ventilation also. And you have a hole on this side also. Right? This is, you could have it 3 feet long, 2 feet long, right? Depending, I mean, depending on the bee. If it is Moco Chiquite, it's going to have to be a lot smaller than if it is walnut, because the Moco Chiquite only have about max 250 workers, right? When the honey flow is coming in, and when honey has stopped flowing in the rainy season, they can get down to 20 bees, right? But if it is walnut, you can have this 3 feet long. So this can be inside dimensions, 10 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 10. Okay? The top here is covered with a piece of plastic, transparent plastic, and every year you take off your wooden cover, peel back the plastic on one side, and scoop out all the honey and pollen pots. Close it back. Never touch this. This is a honey producing hive. Never touch this. Right? You scoop out everything here, take it out. You can even take a wet sponge and sponge it out so that you're getting out any of the pollen that has been ruptured from the pollen pots and has spilt inside the hair. You wipe it out good and you cover it back. And they will fill this back with honey during the ensuing year, and in the next year you come and you harvest this side. So your bees are always left, because if you take out all the food, you have to feed them syrup and you have to feed them pollen. Right? So you take out all on this side this year, next year you take out all on that side. This is a honey producing hive. that is a hive producing, a colony producing. And those are the two hives you use for. Now, you have to remember, the Melapona always like their brood close to the entrance. They are terrible at protecting their brood from forage flies, but they like their brood close to the entrance. So you have to be very careful not to touch the brood. Not to touch it. Once you have gotten several new colonies using that technique, then you can try taking out the brood and putting it into one of these boxes. Right? And once you have it settled in here, and the brood has survived, and the bees have cleaned up, and have taken care of business, and they've no longer been infected with forage flies, then you don't ever touch this brood again. You don't ever touch this brood again. This will last for as long as the box lasts, and the box should be made out of cedar or teak, so termites are not eating it. And this will continue producing, and they will produce new queens, and they will produce honey year after year. This design will continue to produce new hives for you, new colonies, right? And then you can use that design. If you have colonies in that box, you can use that design to sell colonies. That is another source of money besides your honey, because the major problem with the stingless bees is that people want colonies, and people that have colonies don't want to sell colonies. A lot of people that have don't know how to split, and splitting is a problem, because once you touch the brood is so delicate that you're going to rupture brood cells, and it's going to bring any forage flies. So a lot of the time, they have certain people that are lucky and certain people that are unlucky, but a lot of the time it might be a 50-50 if you touch the brood and try to separate and split hives in it. Top, make sure all your joints here are properly cut, snug fitting, good glue. No little tiny holes for the forage flies to get in. And your top, this is just to keep out the light. That's just to keep out the light. The inner cover is a piece of clear plastic stuck to the wood using baby bell cheese wax. That's the easiest I could tell you. That wax never dries, it never gets hard. You scrape it off, roll it up, it sticks again. Right? It sticks. If you can't get baby bell cheese wax, you can try using either paraffin wax or honeybee wax and add Vaseline to it in small increments and get the correct consistency. Right? So you can, once you take, if you have to put this on so that light doesn't get in, because if light gets in, the bees will cover it with resin so that you cannot see what's going on inside the hive. Open it up, take off your cover, you peel back the plastic on half, you take out your honey, you close it back. Simple. Simple, well-made hives. Complicated hives bring problems. Petit Angel, you want the same coffin hive, right? Same coffin hive, but you want an interior dimension this is the entrance here, an interior dimension of 4 inches. Right? So let's say that's a 6-inch board, two 1x4 laps on the outside as your walls. This is a 4-inch dimension there. This is the entrance here. Now with the Petit Angel, if your board's all around 1x4 laps, all you have to do is drill a hole. You don't have to put the big build up. All it needs is a hole to the side. And then this is, let us say, 1.5 feet long, 2 feet long, right? Depending how many hives you have and how well the feeding is in your area. And the Petit Angel will produce their brood on the end here, right? And then so you have your interior dimension of 4 inches, right, by 6 inches. 6 inches, and you put another wall here. You cannot put the PTR gel in the center with your entrance here, like the Melapona. Melapona want their brood as close to the entrance as possible. PTR gel want their brood as far away from the entrance as possible. If you box up PTR gel hive and you put the brood here by the entrance, they're going to move it down to the back here. You can't make them do what they don't want to do. Right? So every year you open the hive and you take out half the honey. The brood is down here, the entrance is here, you take out half the honey.
What kind of hole is there in that dividing for that 6-inch chamber at the end?
A piece of wood. You're putting a wall here. This is a wall here with a hole for them to go through. So that the plastic is always stuck along here. Right? When you fold up your plastic, it's always stuck along here. So you fold back your plastic, you could put another wall here also, so your plastic is stuck here. You take out the honey here, you do not touch the honey here. You're taking out half the honey. Just like in the other hive, always leave this honey for them, so they don't have to feed them, because it's going to be a problem to feed the answer. So you take out half the honey, you process it, you sell it, $50 a teaspoon, and then you close it back, put the cover on. Very simple, just a long. I used to keep the petit gel in hives like this. Just a box hive. This is what I first started. I have a lot of these at home. And I would put their brood in a back corner. Right? But then I had a plebia hive in a box like this. And let's kill the plebia hive and petit gel moved in. It's a much better design. So it's your long thin hive with the brood at the back, divided into 3 sections, but the brood is in the last section. This, you never touch the honey here because you're leaving it for the brood, for the workers, and then you take out the honey in this front portion here, right behind the entrance. When you scoop everything out, you scoop it out, they're all in little individual pots, so you come in with a putty knife and you're scooping everything out quickly, dropping it in a bowl, and then you wipe out everything inside of here with a wet sponge. Wipe it out with a wet sponge, come with a dry sponge, wipe it out, clean it out properly, paper towels, whatever, and then cover it.
Same kind of diamond design for the entrance between the brood and the supers.
Yeah, you drill some, you take some holes so, and you drill some big holes so you're getting good ventilation. Because don't forget, once it's sealed with plastic on top, the only airspace coming in here is just a little hole, smaller than a pencil because the gel is small. So it's a very small hole. So you want large ventilation holes here. Basically, what this is for is so that when you lift up your plastic, the plastic is still taking a seal along here, right? So that actually you could cut out in this wall. If you have somebody who can do carpentry, or you can do carpentry well, you can cut out the whole thing and just leave a border of wood. You understand? Cut out. So you're just leaving a strip of wood to the top, 2 strips to the side to glue to the side of the box, and a strip at the bottom, so that when you're wiping out the box, honey and it doesn't run back. So it's completely cut out. The Trigona amalthea, the pig one, they are also kept in South America. I don't know anybody with a boxed hive here in Trinidad. I have been trying for years to get myself a hive that I could box to experiment on for myself. But in South America, you see that this is the original rustic hive that the Mayans keep the that is Melapona beachy hive, Zunenkav, the royal bee, the Mayans. In South America, they keep the Trigona genus in vertical boxes, like our old post box, old mail box, or vertical box. And when you open it like a cabinet, they have the hole at the top, and they make a big mud on the outside of the box, and they enter the bottom, and they go up all through it, and they go in the top, and when you open it, it shelves, and they have their brood, and you just come and you scrape out the honey that you want, and you close it back. Right? But nobody I know in Trinidad has they used to keep the in Trinidad years ago, when people had Trigona hives keeping, they would make a hammock out of a vine called marmoraine vine, and they would take the whole dirt hive and rest in the hammock and hang the hammock. And they would just break open the hive, break open the mud hive, take out what honey they want, and just leave the pig one. And the pig one are very resistant to the foreign flies. They would just go and pick up their mud all about the place, their clay, and rebuild the outside of their hive.
David, the middle chamber that has the brood, that never fills up that they're not comfortable in there. Because you're only taking out honey on both sides.
No, you never touch inside the hive. They're gonna, you see all this space around here? They're gonna fill up with honey pots and pollen
But
pots.
as they build up their pancakes, does it
No,
ever...
they will hit the this is 8 inches tall.
Right.
Right? On a honey producing on a hive producing box, this is the wall is 6 inches tall. Right? It's 6 inches tall. On a honey producing box, it's 8 inches tall. So by the time they reach the roof, has enough room for them for their brood. You're not splitting it. You're never touching anything inside of here. Right? You see, when you fold it back, you do all your work here. This remains sealed, and then you wipe it out with a sponge and you cover it back.
So do they reuse the brood cells inside the hive? Like, because they'll keep building until every
The brood cells. Well, what they do. This is another thing that suppose it was in a glass box, you could see them do it. A glass, they have these display boxes for honeybees, I think, that are right. You might be able to make one out of plexiglass for these bees, and if it's blocked from the light, then they should not put resin on the glass, so you can't see what's going on. What goes on is as they're building their brood and building the pancake, right? As this hatches out, it becomes a skeleton. All the brood cells become empty, and they just have enough structure to hold up what's on top. Right? And then when the queen reaches the top here and she reaches the roof of the box and she can't go any higher, she will go back down to the bottom and start laying again. It's not like I don't know what causes it in honeybees, and I've never been able to get anybody to tell me, but when you get real old honeybee comb, it doesn't melt. It's like cardboard. So it's like now old wax is not like that, but I have taken honeybee wild hives, and you get the old brood that has gone black, the comb has gone black, and it doesn't melt. I tried to melt it down to get the wax to do it, it don't melt.
So
I don't know.
David,
Huh?
the reason for that is because, just like what you're saying, in the apis hives, they would reuse the cells. Right? So if you know the frames, the honeycomb in apis is what position is that?
Vertical.
It's hanging.
Yeah,
with
the
web,
hanging,
right?
yeah.
So in a wild hive, I'll take it from a wild hive rather than a maintained Langstroth hive. In a wild hive, they're going to have maybe 2 combs on either side that will actually use to insulate the brood itself.
Yeah.
So whenever you're in a wild hive, those 2 combs, they're always dry. Never really had brood on it. And they may have been the last combs that the colony would get. As you move inside and they deal with the brood, the queen would keep using that brood over and over and over. And that's why in management we say you replace your wax, because the cocoon, the skeleton of the cocoon is always there.
Oh, it like builds up in the wax.
Yes. So over time, the apis bee is going to get a little bit smaller because the cell size is smaller.
Right.
Because you have many walls.
You have residue building up
If
inside.
you do go to melt it, what you'd find happen is that you remain with the cocoon, the cups.
Yeah, like a
over the
cardboard.
years,
Yeah.
but there's still wax between each cell. So
Okay.
the purpose for
Alright.
you're saying not melting
Yeah.
is because you're looking at the cocoon and not the wax. The wax will
Right.
melt.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I put all of that kind of black
Right,
comb
so the
and
black
blue comb
thing-
in a
right.
pot and melted it down, and it remained with this, so the
Right,
wax
and
melt
that's
out and leave that.
cocoon
Right.
over the years that
Right.
that
Okay, well, right. But you don't get that in this. It just disappears and they replace it with new brood. They replace the new brood. You never go into here. You never touch that in a honey producing hive. You never touch that in a honey producing hive. Right? You want to try to reduce. This is your brood pancake from a vertical view. You want to try and reduce the amount of actual hands-on manipulation you do to a minimum. because the slightest touch, you're going to, their brood is very delicate, very, very delicate. Okay, so this is your honey producing hive. It's basically this design with the 2 walls is my idea. I haven't seen anybody on the internet in South America using this. They just use a box hive, and this is called the improved rustic hive. The rustic hive is the log with the hole in the side. This is
This is the one that they use.
yeah,
The traditional.
yeah. Well, not right. Yeah.
You cover, is it better to split it in 3 instead of that one long cover?
Yeah. Well, that is what.
No,
the three covers.
Yeah.
Nah, that's just you have 3 covers that are shipped around on top because the entire thing is covered with plastic anyway.
Yeah, no, but if you're not going in the middle, to make that, take
Well,
out the
then
whole
you-
cover.
If you want to go through all that trouble, and then you put hinges. You have to put hinges on sometimes because it could be sliding.
No, the same screw it up with this.
No, I don't screw it down. I just rest it on top.
Is it screwed up?
No, I don't screw it down. I don't screw it down. I just use this to keep out the light.
Oh, okay.
This top cover is just used to keep out the light because it's not keeping the flies out of the hive. What is keeping the flies out of the hive is your plastic that is stuck to the board with your baby bell cheese wax. Right? That is always remain soft and sticky. Right? Don't use plasticine. Plasticine, the wood absorbs the oils and it gets hard and then right.
We want some lively.
For some lavin,
Right after that.
the bees might take it up. The bees might fight to take it up depending because that is resins and
Yeah.
right. I had to stop using fly paper. I was making dog food and I had I had a dog food factory going on and I had my petit angel and I had fly paper in the dog food factory and the petit angel were coming and taking away the resin on the fly paper. They were landing all over the fly paper and rolling up the resin and and I was sitting down there waiting for stuff to bake in the oven and I was what the hell? So I had to stop using that. So you have to be very careful what you put around these bees because they like resins and right? Okay. So that is your honey producing hive. Simple, keep it simple.
Just a question. Based on the design and stuff like that, I guess in the ventilation and stuff, even though there's a small, there'll be a lot of heat.
You cannot keep these hives in the sun.
Humidity. No, even if
They'll make your hives out of wood. Do not paint your boxes. Like honeybees. Honeybees have a large hole at the bottom of the box. So they have a lot of air circulation. Stingless bees have a hole the size of 1 bee. If you make the hole too big, they are going to close up that hole with something called batument and reduce it to the size of 1 bee. They are stingless bees. They generally cannot defend themselves against marauders. So they have to reduce the size of the entrance of the hive. They are going to be able to manage the humidity and the ventilation in the hive through that hole.
Because, like, I think in the episode you could tell a bit with the temperature changes and stuff like that.
You have to keep these bees in the shade. You keep them in the shade. You can't have them where the sun is shining on the boxes on them. Right? They like dry conditions. As I said, in rain time the flies come around, but they cannot be in the sun. They like dry, but they don't like hot sun.
Of course. Just wondering if if there's like a telltale sign of honey being produced or whatnot.
Well, honey being produced, you have to open the
Measurement of
hive.
temperature.
Well, with this design that I have using the plastic, you could always see easily what is going on in the inside your hive because it is transparent plastic. And once you have a cover that light is not getting in, you can even take a piece of black, they have like a black Bristol board? Yeah. Right, if you take a piece of black Bristol board and you put it on top of your plastic and then you tape it down and then put the wood cover on top. The wood cover would be a protective cover for something puncturing it or a rat coming and busting it. Right, but the black Bristol board with a little bit of duct tape would really keep the light out. Then you could just, once light is not getting in, they're not going to cover up the plastic with resin. If light gets in, they're going to cover the plastic with resin because they don't. To them, light coming into the hive means there is a hole in the hive and they're going to block it up with resin and batument. So when you go to see if the empty honey chamber from last year has been filled with new stocks, you're not going to see it. it's going to be covered over. So once you keep out the light, that plastic will remain transparent. You could go anytime and look to see how things go. But you usually break into your hives and harvest honey at the end of dry season before the rains have really come. You don't want to go in like you see now with all these rains and you don't want to do anything stingless bees. You have to keep away from wet weather. And those three simple designs. They have all kind of designs they use away with flower pots and that we might find somebody that gets. We have a bee here in Trinidad that nobody has been able to keep it long term yet, and somebody might come up with a new design hive to get it to stay. But at the moment, yeah, that is kept by the Nahuatl Indians in Mexico. That is a bee. We don't have that genus of bee here. That's Capta Trigona mexicana. Right? And what happens with these? They build their brood like pancakes also. And their brood is in the bottom and they fill the top with honey. So they just come with water. This is sealed with clay. They come with water, wet it, take off the top and put a new pot on, a new empty pot on. Right? And then they scrape out everything, process it, wash the top pots and put them there to dry for next year. And they do the same thing over. Now down in the bottom here, they have their brood, but also all around their brood is honey and pollen pots all around their brood. They never touch that. The only time they touch that is if they want to make new hives, and then they just break the pot. Break it apart, take it, put it in the new pots, and they are a small aggressive bee, and they also living in Mexico, so it's very dry. Right? So they don't have to worry about they don't get problems with the forest flies. Right? In India, Trigona euridipinis in India is kept in bamboo, long pieces of bamboo up under the rafters of houses. Right? Okay? But I've seen hives. This is a little hive, but it's house. Long hives, full lengths of bamboo, and they just open it up and right. They have all kind of different hives. That is kept by some tribal people up in the base of the Himalayas, right? They have all different kind of hives for different types of bees. But for the bees we have here, those three designs are what we use.
Is there kind of a maximum amount of hives you can keep together in one area, or is it better to spread them all over the place?
I only have 3 hives now because of lemon cap, but I had 15 hives of Petiancia at one point in time, and I realized that was kind of max for one spot. And I am up in the high woods, so they have a lot for them to feed on. I have the palmies, the big royal palms, the roystonia. I have all kind of feeding up there for them. It depends on the bee. It depends on the amount of feeding you have. It depends on there is a lot of walnut in North Manzanilla, and there are a lot of honeybees in North Manzanilla. A lot of people keep honeybees in North Manzanilla, but there are a lot of walnut there. North Manzanilla is sapate soil, a lot of clay, and if you look at the clay, where they have exposed clay, you will see the walnut taking up clay, and the pagon taking up clay. And I think they have so many walnut down there. I haven't been able to find anybody keeping walnut in North Manzanilla. They have the hollow mortel trees on the cocoa estates, and there is a lot of rubber, so there is a lot of feed right through the year. There is a lot of feed right through the year, so they have walnut that survive down there. So it depends, and no work has been done with our bees. I mean, if you go to Brazil, I'm sure you could get that information on the bees down there, depending on the species, but no work has been done. I am the one that has done the majority of the hands-on work with our local bees, so I don't know the different species. We don't know how far they fly. We only guess, that kind of, So, but I would suggest if you're going to keep these bees, plant something that will feed them all year, like rubber. Salmon, but salmon takes up a lot of room. A salmon tree will take up a lot of room. So unless you have the place for it, I mean, if you have cattle, right? A salmon tree is a good thing to plant for shade for your cattle. But the other main plant that produces nectar all year. Well, not really nectar, but sweet sap all year is the Brazilian rubber, Cuevas Brasiliana, and you can plant 1 or 2 of those. I mean, one tree should produce a lot of nectar, a lot of sweet sap. Just one single tree. So if you plant that as a boundary marker on your land somewhere, that will produce. But there is no work that has been done locally because in Brazil, the only bee that I know for sure that we have here that is in South America that is kept is the eric, Melapona favosa, and that is not one of the Melapona that is big for commercial use because it doesn't have a lot of workers. So all the Melapona that they have down here, compressor peas and all of them, we don't have in Trinidad. We have Trinitatis, right? So no work has been done with that. No work has been done with that. And don't feed outside. Don't feed bees outside. Put syrup outside because honeybees are gonna come. And next thing they're gonna come, they're gonna follow your bees back from the feeder. These fellas in South America, what they do is, I know someone that tried this in Trinidad and it did not end well. In South America, they put a saucer with marbles and they put the syrup in it. And then they put an excluder, a ring of it looks like PVC, plexiglass, and they cut slots in it. Small enough that the honeybees can't pass through, but the smaller Melapona can pass through. And so everybody come in there and the honeybees smelling the sugar water and all on the outside. They can't get in to feed on the honey, on the sugar water. The stingless bees go in, feed on the sugar water, go back to the nest. The honeybees follow them back to the nest and raid the nest and wipe them out. Right? The Africanized bees. So don't do that. I only feed my bees inside the box. I open the box and put syrup inside, put a bottle inside and feed them. That is only with a new hive. Once they have settled and then you don't feed them. They after
you mentioned that you can plebia in a box and then eventually the angel took it over. So does it mean that the plebia uses the same type of box as the angel? Is it the same shape?
Yeah, well the plebia is about a third to a quarter the size of a petit angel, but they have lots of workers. They have way more workers. And I boxed it because I didn't know. I was actually collecting petit angel from a old abandoned house. And I saw this in the house. And I said, I don't know what bee this is. Right? So I boxed it. There was a lot of workers in the hive. I couldn't collect all the workers, but I collected enough. I collected all the brood. And they filled up the box. It was just a box I had handy, a petit angel box. And they filled up the box. And I collected some workers from that and I gave to, I looked on the internet for myself and I narrowed it down to plebia, genus plebia. I gave it to Lena and Lena sent it away to Canada and the guy in Canada said yes it's plebia but he didn't know what species. And at the time there was not supposed to be plebia in Trinidad. There was plebia tobagoensis in Tobago, the sugar fly. And up to now we don't know if the plebia we have here is the same as the plebia in Tobago, but we know it's plebia.
So they use the same size box as the angel?
Actually, I think they will make a bigger nest. They filled out that box, but where I found them in the wall, they worked. They have large amounts of workers, but they're fine. They're fine, and their nest you can't even. They're kept in South America, but I think they're just kept in South America for pets, because as pets. If you look on YouTube and you will see like in Colombia and these South American countries they have these tall skyscrapers of apartments that people are living in the city, and everybody has like on their patio they have flower boxes and things. So when you look at the apartments from a distance, you're seeing plants hanging and right. People, you'll find a lot of videos on YouTube where they have several hives on their patio and they're feeding sugar water and they're going to the, so it's like a pet. But there is no way you can harvest the honey from a plebia nest because where the honey pots are kept is a nasty mess of interconnecting, lots of wax structure. It's like It's like they've made a maze to keep out the forest flies. It's the tiny little honey pots are all in between all this wax and their wax dries out. Like they use a resin that dries and gets hard and brittle. So when you're trying to get out the honey, it all just dust goes into the honey. And so I don't see what they would use the PBR for.
So
Except
what is the nano-trigona that he said is good for pollination of tomatoes?
Iraid. Iraid, that is nanotrigona testacyconus.
So the PBS are small as the
No, it's smaller than that. Smaller than the nanotrigona. The nanotrigona, they're easy to tell apart. The nests are usually the same inside a brick wall. The nanotrigona has pretty green eyes with chocolate stripes in it. And the top of the thorax is matte black, not shiny, and they have little bumps, like little short spines standing up on top of the thorax. The plebia does not have the pretty eyes, and they have yellow markings on the top of the thorax. Bright yellow, they're little black bees with bright yellow markings on the top of the thorax. Depending on the species, it can be a yellow horseshoe, or it can be 4 yellow dots, but there is always yellow. A tiny black bee with yellow on the top of the thorax is a plebia. That's the field identification for plebia genus. Right? They don't make any kind of honey. Right? So that's that.